We're talking with Ian McColl, the President of the Sheep Meats Council of Australia. Ian, what are you observing when it comes to the sheep meats industry at the moment around Australia in production before we look at the world?
I think, Bruce, look, there's been some constraints on production for the last couple of years. You know, we've had some really tough climatic conditions over the last little while, which has seen variations in prices. We saw extremely good prices 2 years ago, which was $6.50, and I think, look, that probably spoiled us a little bit, to be honest. It was a result of some production problems around the world, and look, I don't think we got there too quickly. We should be able to maintain those sorts of levels longer term, but certainly the reality is we're competing against all the other proteins, so those prices have come off, and producers have had to make a few hard decisions. But I think, look, there's a good long-term trend there, or a good positive long-term trend that we're now going and seeing again.
What about production in other parts of the world? Are you noticing anywhere that it's increasing quite dramatically, or is it fairly stable?
Oh, look, I think certainly, as we've heard this morning, production around the world is decreasing, and especially from the countries who have the ability to be able to export to other countries and to supply them with their food requirements. And that's very different from a number of the other commodities that we're actually dealing with.
What about from a demand point of view? What are you seeing both with the live export trade but also the sheep meats trade?
No question that on an overseas basis, demand is increasing quite dramatically in some markets and quite steadily in others. There is some fluctuations, but as we are seeing more affluence around the world, especially in the larger economies, China, India, all those sorts of places, these people eat more in the way of protein and meat products, and that long-term demand will continue.
Are they really sensitive to price though, a lot of those countries?
Every country or every market has a level of price sensitivity. It does change depending on the market. You'd probably argue that America not quite as much, but certainly in the more developing countries and the countries that aren't as affluent, yes, there is price sensitivity in there. There's no doubt about that.
So what's your medium-term outlook then for the next couple of years?
Oh, look, we think the medium-term outlook to long-term outlook is very good. There will be a level of fluctuations. One of the concerns or the problems we run into as an industry is we're probably not able to produce on that consistent year-round basis that the markets need, because the last thing you want is when you get into whatever market it is, overseas or domestic, that you cannot supply the product when it's required, and that has ramifications back through the industry. So somewhere along the line we've got to try and get more professional as an industry so that we can provide the required product on a year-round and on a global basis, which will be a real challenge for us.
Now, to a controversial issue, the live sheep trade. Do you expect that it will continue?
We very much support the live sheep trade. It underpins a lot of our markets, and that we've seen this earlier on this year with the price reductions that we've seen. A number of markets overseas only want live sheep, they culturally and for all sorts of reasons. Refrigeration is one in some areas. Cost of processing in Australia is a major issue to then be able to take it into a lot of our countries, a lot of other countries. So it's just not competitive actually processing it in Australia. So yes, it's very much a part of what we do and what we need. We've worked very hard under SCAS, which is the Export Supply Chain Assurance System, to improve animal welfare for all the animals that are going overseas. And as I've said, we are the only country in the world that is proactively working at improving animal welfare around the world and puts these requirements on other countries on how they work with our animals and the welfare.
Ian McColl, thanks for talking to us today.
Thanks, Bruce.